New York Yankees clubhouse, May 6th, 1925. Wednesday morning, 9 a.m., Babe Ruth walks into the locker room. Before he can say good morning, teammate Lou Gehrig hands him the sports page of a newspaper. "You need to read this." Ruth takes the paper. The Sporting News, big headline. Ty Cobb interview. Ruth starts reading. Babe Ruth is just a showman, not a real ball player. He hits home runs but does not know baseball fundamentals, cannot steal bases, cannot bunt, cannot play defense, just swings the bat and gets lucky. 10 years from now, nobody will remember him. But real players, like me, will be remembered forever. Ruth slowly folds the newspaper, smile on his face, but something else in his eyes. Ty Cobb said this? Gehrig nods. Yesterday, and today every newspaper is printing it. Ruth puts the newspaper on the table. Bing starts putting on his uniform. Do we have a game today? Yes, Detroit Tigers, 2 p.m. Ruth pauses. Detroit? So Ty Cobb's team? Yes. Ruth laughs, but this time it is a different laugh, a dangerous laugh. Perfect. To understand why Ruth's response that day became legendary, you need to understand the tension between these two men. Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth represent two completely different eras of baseball, two completely different philosophies, two completely different worlds. Ty Cobb started playing in 1905, the dead ball era, when home runs were rare, when baseball was about strategy, small ball, bunting, stealing bases, manufacturing runs, moving runners one base at a time, contact hitting, placing the ball, hitting to all fields, defense, fundamentals. This was real baseball according to Cobb, the scientific game, the thinking man's game. Cobb mastered it better than anyone. He won 12 batting titles, stole 892 bases, hit .367 for his career. The best player of his generation, maybe the best player ever. Then Babe Ruth arrived. 1914, but Ruth did not become famous until 1919, when he started hitting home runs. Lots of home runs, 29 in 1919, 54 in 1920, 59 in 1921. Numbers nobody had ever seen, numbers that seemed impossible. Ruth changed the game, made it about power, about one swing, about sending the ball over the fence. Fans loved it. Attendance doubled, tripled. Everyone wanted to see Ruth hit home runs. Baseball became entertainment, became spectacle, became the Babe Ruth show. And Ty Cobb hated it, hated everything about it, because Ruth's success meant Cobb's style was becoming obsolete. The game Cobb mastered was disappearing, being replaced by something Cobb considered cheap, easy, unsophisticated. Just swing hard and hope for the best. Where is the skill in that? Where is the strategy? Where is the baseball? Cobb had been criticizing Ruth for years, but privately, in clubhouses, to teammates, to reporters off the record. Never publicly, never in newspapers. Because Cobb was smart. Knew that attacking Ruth publicly would make him look jealous, would make him look old, would make him look like he was fighting against progress. But by 1925, Cobb's frustration reached its limit. Ruth was everywhere, every newspaper, every magazine, every conversation. Baseball was now defined by Ruth, not by Cobb, not by fundamentals, not by strategy, just Ruth. Home runs, entertainment, circus baseball. So on May 5th, 1925, Cobb gave an interview to the Sporting News, a respected baseball publication, and he said what he had been thinking for years. Babe Ruth is not a real ball player. He is a showman, an entertainer, but not someone who understands the game. He hits home runs because pitchers throw him fastballs down the middle. Any strong man could do that. But can he bunt when needed? Can he steal a base? Can he hit to the opposite field? Can he play smart defense? No, he just swings for the fences every time. That is not baseball. That is a circus act. And in 10 years, when his power fades, nobody will remember him. But players like me, who play real baseball, will be remembered forever. The interview was published on May 6, 1925, the same day the Yankees were scheduled to play the Detroit Tigers, Ty Cobb's team, and Cobb made sure he would be at that game, not playing. He claimed a minor injury, but the truth was different. He wanted to be in the stands, watching, making his presence known, sending a message to Ruth. I said what I said, and I will watch you fail to prove me right. When Ruth read the interview that morning, his teammates expected him to be angry, expected him to rant, to curse, to say he would confront Cobb. But Ruth did none of that. He just folded the newspaper, smiled, and said one word. Perfect. Lou Gehrig asked him, Are you okay, babe? Ruth was tying his shoes, still smiling. I am great, Lou. Today is going to be a great day. But what Cobb said is what Cobb thinks. Thinking is one thing. Reality is another. Today I will show him reality. How? Ruth stood up, grabbed his bat, the famous 54-ounce bat, heavier than anyone else used, the same way I always do. I will hit the ball, far. Ruth's manager, Miller Huggins, pulled him aside before the game. Babe, I know you read what Cobb said. Do not let it get to you. Do not do anything stupid. I am not going to do anything stupid, Skip. Good, because Cobb is trying to get in your head, trying to make you press, trying to make you swing at bad pitches. Do not give him what he wants. I am going to give him exactly what he wants. Huggins looked confused. What does that mean? Ruth patted him on the shoulder. He wants a show. I will give him a show. And walked onto the field. Yankee Stadium, May 6, 1925, 2 p.m., crowd of 35,000, large for a Wednesday afternoon. Word had spread about Cobb's interview. Everyone wanted to see Ruth's response. The atmosphere was electric. Fans held signs. Babe beats Cobb. Home run king. Show him. Babe. In the stands, first row behind home plate, sat Ty Cobb, arms crossed, expressionless, watching. When Ruth walked to the dugout, the crowd erupted. Massive cheers. Ruth tipped his cap, looked directly at where Cobb was sitting, made eye contact. Cobb did not react, just stared back. No smile, no acknowledgement, just cold assessment. Ruth smiled wider, waved at Cobb, friendly, like greeting an old friend. This annoyed Cobb more than anything, because Ruth was not taking him seriously, was not intimidated, was not defensive, just happy. The game began. Detroit Tigers batting first. Ruth was playing right field. As he jogged to his position, fans in the right field stands started chanting, Babe! 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 Ruth waved to them, then looked back at Cobb's seat. Cobb was watching him. Ruth pointed at him, then pointed at the center field fence. The message was clear. That is where the ball is going. Cobb's expression did not change, but people sitting near him said later that his jaw tightened. His hands clenched. He understood the message, and he did not like it. Bottom of the first inning, Yankees batting. Ruth was batting third. 2 outs, nobody on base. Ruth walked to the plate. The crowd went insane. 35,000 people standing, screaming. The noise was deafening. Ruth stepped into the batter's box, looked at the pitcher, Earl Whitehill. Good pitcher, 15-game winner the previous year. Ruth took a practice swing, then another, then looked back at Cobb. Cobb was leaning forward now, watching closely. Ruth smiled, turned back to the pitcher. First pitch, fastball, outside, ball 1. Crowd booed the pitcher. Second pitch, curveball, low, ball 2. The crowd booed louder. Whitehill was being careful, not giving Ruth anything to hit. Smart baseball, exactly what Ty Cobb would do. Make Ruth chase bad pitches, make him look foolish. Third pitch, fastball, high and tight, ball 3. The crowd was furious now. Throw strikes! Let him hit! Ruth stepped out of the box, looked at Cobb again. Cobb was smiling now, because walking Ruth proved his point. Ruth could not hit if pitchers were smart, could not manufacture runs, could not move runners, just had to wait for mistakes. Ruth stepped back in. Fourth pitch, fastball, middle of the plate. The mistake Ruth was waiting for. Ruth swung. The sound of the bat hitting the ball was different from normal hits. Louder, sharper, like a cannon firing. The ball exploded off the bat, rising, climbing, traveling. The entire stadium watched it. Mouths open, the ball sailed over the center field fence, over the bleachers, out of the stadium, gone, home run. Ruth jogged around the bases, slowly, enjoying every step. As he rounded first base, he looked at Cobb. Cobb was still sitting, arms still crossed, but his face was different now, tighter, angrier. Ruth smiled, tipped his cap, not to the crowd, to Cobb. When Ruth crossed home plate, his teammates mobbed him, but Ruth pushed through them, jogged to the dugout, sat down, and looked directly at Cobb's seat. Cobb was staring back. The message was sent. 1 home run, the first response. If you are enjoying this epic rivalry and want to see how Ruth completely destroyed Cobb's argument, make sure to subscribe so you never miss these incredible sports moments. And comment below, Team Cobb, Fundamentals, or Team Ruth, Power Game? Let me know. The game continued. Top of the third inning. Detroit batting. Ruth was in right field again. A fly ball came his way, routine catch, but Ruth made it look spectacular, running full speed, diving, catching the ball just before it hit the ground. The crowd cheered. Ruth stood up, held the ball up, looked at Cobb, Cobb's seat. Cobb was writing something in a notebook, pretending not to care. But everyone could see he was rattled. Bottom of the third inning. Yankees batting again. Ruth was up. This time there was one man on base. First pitch, curveball. Ruth swung, missed, strike 1. The crowd groaned. Cobb leaned back in his seat, smiled. See? Ruth swings at everything. No discipline. Second pitch, fastball inside. Ruth fouled it off. Strike 2. The crowd was nervous now. Cobb was nodding. This is what happens when pitchers are smart. Ruth cannot hit. Third pitch, another curveball, low and away, a ball. But Ruth swung anyway, and somehow, impossibly, he hit it. Not perfect contact, but enough. The ball lifted, high, deep, left field. The left fielder ran back, kept running, ran to the wall, jumped. The ball sailed over his glove, over the fence. Home run, again. Ruth's second home run of the game. The stadium exploded. Fans were jumping, hugging strangers, throwing hats in the air. This was why they came. This was Babe Ruth. Ruth jogged the bases again. This time he did not look at Cobb until he rounded third base. Then he stopped, literally stopped running, stood there, looked directly at Cobb, and pointed at him. The entire stadium saw it. 35,000 witnesses. Ruth pointing at Ty Cobb, saying without words, "This is for you." Then Ruth jogged home, crossed the plate, and sat in the dugout. Cobb was standing now, not sitting, standing. His arms were no longer crossed. His hands were clenched into fists. His face was red. He was furious, and everyone in the stadium could see it. The rest of the game was almost anticlimactic. Yankees were winning. The crowd was happy. But everyone was waiting for Ruth's next at-bat. Would he hit a third home run? Could he? Top of the seventh inning. Detroit batting. Ty Cobb could not take it anymore. He left his seat, walked down to the Detroit dugout. Even though he was not playing, he went to the bench, sat with his teammates. They looked surprised. "Ty, what are you doing here?" "I want to see this closer," Cobb said. "See what?" "I want to see if Ruth gets lucky a third time." Bottom of the seventh inning. Yankees batting. Ruth was up again. The crowd was on their feet before he even reached the plate. This was it. 3 home runs in one game. Almost unheard of. Ruth stepped into the batter's box, looked at the Detroit dugout, saw Cobb sitting there, staring at him. Ruth smiled, winked at him. Cobb did not react. First pitch, fastball, middle high. Ruth swung, crushed it. The ball launched, higher than the first 2, deeper than the first 2. The center fielder did not even run, just turned and watched. The ball sailed over the fence, deep into the bleachers. Home run, Ruth's third home run of the game. The stadium went absolutely insane. People were crying, screaming. This was the greatest performance they had ever seen. And everyone knew why it happened, because Ty Cobb said Ruth was not a real ball player. Ruth jogged the bases one more time, but this time, as he passed the Detroit dugout, he did something nobody expected. He stopped, right in front of the dugout, looked directly at Ty Cobb, and spoke, loud enough for everyone in the dugout to hear. "Hey, Ty, is that enough real baseball for you?" Cobb said nothing, just stared. His face was pure rage, but he had no response. What could he say? Ruth had just hit 3 home runs in one game. On the same day, Cobb said Ruth was not a real ball player. Ruth continued around the bases, crossed home plate, and disappeared into the dugout. Yankees won the game 11-4. Ruth finished 3 for 4 with 3 home runs and 6 RBIs. Single-handedly destroyed Detroit. After the game, reporters swarmed the Yankees clubhouse. Everyone wanted to talk to Ruth. "Babe, 3 home runs. How does it feel?" Ruth was getting dressed, smiling. "Feels good. I like hitting home runs." "Did you read what Ty Cobb said about you this morning?" "I did." "What did you think?" "I thought he was entitled to his opinion. But he said you are not a real ball player." Ruth paused, looked at the reporter, "and I showed him what kind of ball player I am. 3 home runs. That is my response. I do not need to say anything else." "Do you have any message for Ty Cobb?" Ruth thought for a moment, smiled. "Yeah, I have a message. Ty Cobb is one of the greatest players who ever lived. Nobody can argue that. He is a master of fundamentals. He plays smart baseball, strategic baseball, and I respect that. But baseball is changing. Fans want excitement. They want big hits. They want home runs. That is what I give them. That is what they pay to see. Ty can call it showmanship if he wants. I call it giving the people what they want, and the people want home runs." "So you are not angry at what he said?" "Why would I be angry? He gave me motivation. He gave me a target, and I hit that target. 3 times. I should thank him." The reporters laughed. They loved this. Ruth, the showman, even in interviews. One reporter asked the question everyone wanted to ask. "Do you think Ty Cobb will respond?" Ruth shrugged. "I do not know, but if he does, I will be ready, because every time someone says I cannot do something, I prove them wrong. That is what I do. That is who I am." Meanwhile, in the Detroit clubhouse, Ty Cobb was silent. His teammates were talking. complaining about the loss, complaining about Ruth. But Cobb said nothing. Just sat in front of his locker, staring at the floor. One of his teammates, Harry Heilman, sat next to him. "Ty, you okay?" Cobb did not answer. "Ty, I am fine. That was something. Ruth hitting 3 home runs the same day your interview came out." "I know." "Bad timing." Cobb looked at him. "It was not bad timing. It was planned." "What do you mean?" "He did this on purpose. He read my interview, and he responded with his bat. That is how he communicates." "So what are you going to say?" Cobb stood up, started packing his bag. "Nothing." "Nothing? But he embarrassed you, in front of everyone. You have to respond." Cobb stopped, looked at Heilman. "How? How do I respond? I said he is not a real ball player, and he hit 3 home runs. If I say anything now, I look like a fool. If I double down, I look jealous. If I apologize, I look weak. Ruth won. He won the only way that matters. On the field. There is nothing I can say." Heilman nodded, understanding. "So that is it? You are just going to let it go?" Cobb finished packing. "I am going to do what I always do, play baseball, my way, and let the results speak for themselves." But everyone could see. Cobb was hurt, not physically, emotionally. His pride was wounded. He had challenged Ruth, and Ruth had destroyed him, publicly, decisively, with 3 home runs. The newspapers the next day were brutal to Cobb. "Ruth answers Cobb with 3 home runs. Babe silences critic. Showman outplays fundamentalist." Every article mentioned Cobb's interview. Every article mentioned Ruth's response. Cobb became a punchline. The old player who could not accept that the game had changed. The bitter veteran who attacked the new star out of jealousy. It was humiliating. Cobb's reputation took a hit, not because of his skill. Everyone respected his skill, but because he had made himself look petty, small, jealous. And Ruth? Ruth became even more popular, even more beloved, because he had responded the right way, not with words, not with anger, not with excuses, but with performance. 3 home runs, the ultimate answer. Years later, in 1936, both Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth were inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. First class, the 5 greatest players in history, according to voters. Cobb received the most votes. Ruth was second. At the ceremony, reporters asked if the 2 men had reconciled. Ruth said, "There is nothing to reconcile. Ty and I are different players, different styles, but we both love baseball. That is what matters." Cobb was asked the same question. He said, "Ruth is a great player. Nobody can deny that. He changed the game. Whether that change was good or bad, history will decide." They never became friends, never had a warm relationship, but they developed a mutual respect. Born from competition, born from that day in 1925, when Cobb said Ruth was not a real ball player, and Ruth hit 3 home runs to prove him wrong. The legacy of May 6, 1925, is not just about 3 home runs, it is about how you respond to criticism. Ruth could have responded with anger, could have attacked Cobb in the press, could have created a feud, but he did not. He let his bat do the talking, and his bat said everything that needed to be said. Cobb's criticism was based on a valid point. Ruth did not play baseball the traditional way, did not focus on fundamentals the way Cobb did not steal bases or bunt or manufacture runs. But Ruth understood something Cobb did not, or refused to accept. Baseball was entertainment, fans paid to see excitement, and nothing was more exciting than a home run. A ball sailing over the fence, the crowd erupting, the player rounding the bases. That was theater. That was drama. That was what people remembered. Cobb played smart baseball, strategic baseball, winning baseball. But Ruth played memorable baseball. Fans left Yankees games talking about Ruth's home runs. They left Tigers games talking about Cobb's batting average. Which one creates legends? Which one creates icons? Ruth understood. And that understanding made him immortal. May 6th, 1925, proved it. Ty Cobb said Babe Ruth was not a real ball player, just a showman. And Babe Ruth responded, not with words, with 3 home runs, each one a statement, each one a rebuttal, each one a piece of evidence that changed baseball forever. The first home run said, I can hit when it matters. The second home run said, I can do it again, not luck, skill. The third home run said, I am better than you think, and there is nothing you can do about it. Cobb sat in the stands for the first 2, then moved to the dugout for the third, watching his criticism be destroyed, watching his argument collapse, watching Ruth prove him wrong 3 times, in front of 35,000 witnesses and millions more who read about it the next day. That is how you answer critics. Not by arguing, not by defending, but by performing, by showing, by doing what they say you cannot do, and doing it better than they ever imagined. Ty Cobb was right about one thing. Baseball fundamentals matter. Strategy matters. Intelligence matters. But Ty Cobb was wrong about something else. He said Babe Ruth was not a real ball player. History proved him wrong. Babe Ruth was not just a real ball player. He was the ball player, the one who defined an era, the one who changed the game, the one everyone remembers. Cobb was great, one of the greatest ever. But Ruth was legendary, and legends are built on moments like May 6th, 1925. When a critic says you are not real, and you respond with 3 home runs. Perfect.